conversations. One of the questions I get asked a lot by entrepreneurs who start out for the first time, or just people for that matter who start out for the first time and want to make a success out of their life and really want to do something big, is I usually end the conversation somewhere: you need to start reading. And then the first question they have is, okay, what are the books that I need to read? So in this video, I'm going to discuss the books that I believe every single person needs to read, especially entrepreneurs, if you want to be successful and you are starting out. Obviously, there is dozens of books out there. You should be a reader. If you know, there's a saying, leaders are readers, so you should be reading regardless. But this is my top recommendation of books if you are starting out to figure out your life, on what the books you need to read. So we're going to go through them. The first one is Driven by Eternity, written by Bevere. Now, the reason why I love this book is because, you might say, okay, I'm not a Christian, but the biggest thing is that this book teaches you that we need to think of life after death. Everything we do in this life affects the life we live here after, whether it is your legacy that you leave behind or whether it's the eternal fruit that you're going to have when you get there. So this is a book that's about purpose. This book is really gonna ignite something in you to start thinking about your purpose. There's very few people in this world that's actually thinking of their purpose, and I truly believe that this book is gonna help you and speak to you deeply about that. So yeah, Driven by Eternity. The second book is also by Bevere, and this is kind of like part 2 of Driven by Eternity, and it's X, Multiply Your God-Given Potential. Now, what's interesting is this is the very theoretical stuff, and this one is the practical. So this goes into, the first book says you need to have a purpose. The second book is helping you how to figure out your purpose. So I would really recommend this book. It's a very fun read. I read it very quickly, and you can also see that, okay, it doesn't show very well on the video, but I made a lot of notes in this book and highlighted and learned. There were so many things I learned from this book, and I oftentimes go back to it, when I feel a little bit confused and I'm like, am I still in my calling? Am I still doing what I need to do? Then I read this book again. So definitely a book that I would recommend. The third book, I don't have a copy with me. There's a couple of them I don't have a copy with me because I shared it with friends. But yeah, the third book is a book called Soar by T.D. Jakes. Very, very interesting the way that he wrote the story. So essentially he is saying, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to build a business, or you just want to build a successful life, you need to start with the end in mind. In other words, he likens it onto the story of an aeroplane. If you think, I want to fly, we are in South Africa, I want to fly to the United States, then we have to think, okay, how are we going to do it? But we start with the end in mind. So in other words, how are we going to land? How are we going to get the airplane up in the air? What is the experience on the plane going to be like? What is the food that we're going to serve the people? All these different questions that he takes out of the book, and then he compares it to the same way that you need to build a business, to develop that thinking of all the stuff that you need to think about, of how do you give good customer experience? How do you actually make sure that your business lifts off? How do you make sure that you will get there, that there's enough in your engine to actually get to the end of reaching your vision? So there's so many interesting things in that book. It was really a very fun read. I think anything by T.D. Jakes is a very fun read. But yeah, that is the third book. The fourth book that I have for you, this is the Afrikaans version because I didn't get the English version, but the book's name is Think, Learn and Succeed by Dr. Caroline Leaf. Now, why this book is important is because it's basically teaching you how you should learn, which is one of the most important skills that we need for the day and age that we live in. There's a lot of information coming to us all the time, and we need to be able to differentiate whether that information is good or bad. And this book is going to teach you how to do that. This book is going to teach you how to take all the information in the world and how to make a success out of this. This book is also, especially if you're a big scholar, you study medicine, stuff like that, you know, very hectic degrees. This book is a book that I would recommend to you. And this is a book that I would recommend to any entrepreneur because, you know, as an entrepreneur, you may not be a big scholar, but you have to study every single day to stay ahead of the curve and to do what you got to do. So that is book number 4, Think, Learn, and Succeed. Then book number 5, I also don't have a copy with me. I think it's currently with my best friend. But it's a classic. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. You know, in business, it's all about people. It's an entrepreneurship in the life. To be successful in life, it's all about people. You got a network. And what How to Win Friends and Influence People teaches you is how do you know, what principles can you follow? What certain rules and stuff can you follow to make sure that you actually make a good impact on people? You build good and healthy relationships to make sure that you can do something good. So it's a classic. It's something that has to be in your book arsenal. So yeah, that's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Book number 6 is also a classic, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay, this book is probably, you know, if you need to figure out your finances, if you just finished school, you know, and you always hear those arguments, the school never teaches me about finances or whatever. This book is the book that you have to read, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I love Robert Kiyosaki. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a great man. I love the work that they are doing. And this book is really going to bless you. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it speaks about financial principles. Yeah, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay, then the next book, it's part 2 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know, at first I wanted to make this the top 10, my top 10 book recommendation, but I changed it because I realized I have 2 books that I cannot, you know, leave out of this pack of books that you got to read. And this next book is one of those books, and this is part 2 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and this is the cashflow quadrant. Okay, now what's very interesting, I'll almost show it on here. So the cashflow quadrant, you will see there's an E, S, B, I. So the E stands for employed, the S stands for self-employed, the B stands for business, the I stands for investor. And basically what this book does is it shows you how you function in one of these quadrants, and also how society is handling these different quadrants and how and in which quadrant you should function to be financially successful. It's a very interesting book. It's a very fun book to read. And I would deeply recommend it to anybody. You know, you cannot just stop after Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because this is the foundation. It really sheds a lot of light on what needs to happen, but then practically of what you need to do next is in this book. So you've got to read it. In fact, read the whole series. Go on Google and Google the whole Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. But if you do not want to read the whole series, these first 2 is a must. So yeah. Okay, so that's that. Then the next one is another one by Dr. Caroline Leaf. You will realize very soon that I'm a very big fan of Dr. Caroline Leaf because I'm a little bit of a neuroscience nerd. So yeah, it's her latest book that she has written, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. And it says here 5 simple scientific proven steps to reduce anxiety, stress, and toxic thinking. We live in the 21st century, and we all know that anxiety, stress, depression, mental health is a very hot topic. And this book is really a very practical book that helps us without talking about medication, without saying that you are weird, that there's something wrong with you. But it's basically going with the premise that, you know, all these things that's part of life and we need to learn how to deal with it. You know, if you're a businessman, it is a stressful environment. If you run your own business, if you run a startup, listen, it's one of the most stressful things out there to do. And you need to, you know, you need stuff to help you manage that anxiety and stress and your relationships and the stuff that you're going to discover about yourself that's maybe not stuff that you like that much, and you need to change it and deal with it and learn how to do that. And this book is going to help you how to do that. It's a book that I would deeply recommend. It is a lot of scientific talk, but she also makes it very practical and helpful for people that maybe do not understand science that well. She explains it in a very easy to understand way, but she also goes deeply into the science to prove to you that everything that she is sharing is the truth. So Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, definitely a read that you have to have in your cupboard. Okay. Then another one by T.D. Jakes, book number 8. I also don't have the copy with me. It's Don't Drop the Mic. This book is a book about communication. It's going to teach you everything you need to know about public speaking or addressing a crowd, or even just having, a boardroom meeting and how to have it in a proper way to actually speak to people and speak sense. Now, why I think T.D. Jakes is probably one of the best people in the world to have this conversation in this book, because if you go and study him and you go and look at his ministry, at his church, his business ventures, everything that he does, he's truly a phenomenal speaker. He's a phenomenal communicator, and he teaches he goes into a lot of the details in that book of what you need to learn, how you need to say certain stuff, how you need to prepare for a public speaking event. There's so many things in that book. So the book's name is Don't Drop the Mic. Definitely also another book that you want to read. Then another book, it's maybe not the most famous book. I bought it from a secondhand store. So I've never seen it in our major retail outlets, bookstore outlets. But it's a book that I would definitely recommend because it changed my life. It helped me to understand myself a lot better and how I should broadcast myself to the world. And the book's name is called Brand Yourself. The subtitle is How to Create an Identity for a Brilliant Career. So, one of the things that you have to do is you have to be able to brand yourself in any situation. You are broadcasting a brand when you have a meeting with a client, when you're looking for an investor, when you are hiring employees, when you are looking for a job yourself. You need to broadcast your brand, but a lot of people don't even know what their brand is. And this book, it's a practical book that's going to help you how to do that. It is a little bit, in the beginning, it's a bit tedious because there's a lot of tests that you have to do to actually figure out what is your brand. But once you've gotten through those tests and you've done the hard work, and they motivate you to keep on doing the hard work, you will truly learn a lot about yourself, and then they go into details of how you can broadcast that brand to the world. So it's a book, definitely a recommendation. Get this book, read it. Okay, then the book number 11 is The Sales Advantage by Dale Carnegie and Associates Incorporate. And then it says here J. Oliver Crom and Michael Crom was the authors. This is a book, if you want to be a businessman, one of the biggest things that you have to learn how to do is sales. Okay, sales is it's the heart of every single business, because that is what's going to determine if you make money or not. If you don't make money, well, then it's not a business. So this book is going to help you with that, to make sales, how you should approach sales. It's going to teach you all the fundamental things. There's obviously, as a businessman, you're going to have to read a lot of books on sales, but this is a book that I would recommend for any person starting out, because it really goes into detail, it goes into basics, it helps you to understand everything, and it also helps you to overcome the fear a little bit, because sales is a scary thing. Pursuing somebody and asking for them to invest money into your product or service, it's a scary thing, and this book is going to help you how to do that and actually be successful. So it's a very good fundamental read for any person who wants to start out. So yeah, definitely read The Sales Advantage. And then the last book is another book by T.D. Jakes. I'm also a big fan of him. Is the book called Crushing. Listen, this book wrecked me, because oftentimes we go through the storms of life. We go through challenges. We go through a lot of stuff, especially if you want to run your own business, because it's hard, it's difficult. When you have to get that thing, in the book Soar, they talk about you have to get that thing to elevate and go through the clouds and stuff and break through the force so that it actually can start floating above the clouds, your business now. And it's that journey, it's hard, it's difficult, it's tough, it's going to take everything of you. And Crushing is a book that's going to help you how to push through those moments where it feels like your life is being crushed, where everything is failing, where nothing is working. So yes, those are 12 books that I would recommend that you have to get. You need to read them. Leaders are readers. If you want to be a good entrepreneur, you have to read. If you don't like reading, just start. It's gonna catch up eventually with you. It's a thing, it just happens. I don't understand it. My best friend, he didn't like reading. He loves reading at the moment because I helped him to find the right books, the stuff that he was interested in. He started reading and he loves it now. So that's what I want to say to you. If you want to be successful, you got to read. Here's 12 recommendations. There's obviously a million other, but I would start with this 12 if you don't know where to start. Thank you.